Hey there, have your cost of living costs gone through the roof like mine? Hi, I'm Beck, 47, and I make videos about this crazy stage of life while living solo. So, today I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try and make a video that I don't need to edit afterwards. So, let's see how that goes. You can let me know in the comments what you think about it. I want to talk about the rise of basically everything in our daily lives. I live in Australia, in Melbourne, and really over the last year, I'm sure my fixed costs have risen heaps. To be honest, I can't quite exactly tell you of how much because I'm really not great in budgeting and keeping an eye on my money. But times change, and I've realized I really need to start. A little bit of history or story. When I grew up, I was really lucky, I think. I grew up in a family that always had enough money to basically make my life really easy. We weren't rich, we weren't poor, but there was always enough money to do certain things. And so, yes, somehow there was never discussions about saving money. Even when there was money issues at some point that I now know about, sorry, I didn't really realize that we did have money. I was still allowed to go horse riding, which was quite expensive back home in Germany. And apparently we were really saving on groceries and eating out, etc. But as a teenager, it just went over my head. So yeah, that's just my sort of background. And then I finally started to learn a little bit about money when my parents decided to migrate to Australia. And I said, no thanks, I'm staying in Germany. So I was living by myself at the age of 19, suddenly finding myself in my own flat, having to pay bills, going to the grocery store by myself, and sort of live within my means. Saying that, I still got an allowance from my parents because I was at uni. So yes, I was very lucky to be able to be supported by my parents throughout my studies and, while I was studying, because then I decided I didn't like my studies and I went to go and work in a hotel and do guest animation for about 9 months in Spain. That's when my parents finally said, enough is enough. Great, if you want to do that, but we're out and you'll have to live on the money that you've got there. Again, though, we were living in the hotel, we were fed. I didn't really need much money, so I just kept paying my rent in Germany and still sort of lived the high life back there. Fast forward about 5 years, and I decided to migrate to Australia as well. And my mum was so happy that I came over here that I was still well supported if I needed some help financially for bonds. Here in Australia, if you want to get an apartment, they often ask you for a bond for about 2 months rent in case you break something, or they might ask you to pay an extra month of rent in advance. So I was always able, basically, whenever I was in a little bit of a tight squeeze, to go and ask my parents for help. Now, being at my ripe age of 47, obviously that has changed, and I need to sort out my own finances. And I've really started over the last year or two to pay attention to where my money goes. But I don't know about you, but I'm finding it really tedious. I've tried, I show you this, and I'm going to try it again. I've tried one of these. Basically, I downloaded this from a website called what is it called? squirrelsophiafeather.com, which is just a very simple, I guess, like a printed out Excel sheet. And you put in basically, you've got your fixed costs coming down on this side, and then you've got all the other costs that don't happen all the time, sort of going across. And there is a few columns that you can add your own expenses as they come along. And on the bottom, you've got your total fixed expenses, so the money that you definitely will need every month. And plus, you can put in the month and the year to see what you've been doing. So I've done this for 2 months, a couple of months back, and I feel like I've got a pretty good idea where all my money goes. Saying that, my money does disappear, all of it. And that doesn't even account for some things like buying some new clothes every now and then. And to be honest, it doesn't really include big medical bills, dentist costs, etc. either. So it's sort of like a bit of a mismatched budget. So yes, but what's going to happen next year is that I'm going to come, and this is basically the biggest reason I'm making this video. I'm going to come out of my fixed mortgage rate for this house, and I'm going to go from a 2.1% mortgage to I don't know what's going to happen by next year, what the Reserve Bank is going to do, but I'm quite likely going to end up with an interest rate somewhere between, if I'm lucky, 5.5 to 6%, which obviously is a massive increase in mortgage repayments I will have to find. If I did calculate it right, and again, I will find out once it actually happens, I will have to find something between 10 and 12,000 extra Australian dollars next year. And I am not on a massive salary. I'm a teacher, actually working as a learning assistant at the moment. I've got a good salary, but it doesn't stretch that far. So basically, if I have to pay this new amount for my mortgage next year, that'll eat up all the money that I can actually save at the moment. And even that, often I don't save, but use it to pay off the credit cards, because that's one thing I've learned in the last few years. I don't have a credit card debt anymore, so I do pay that off every month. And yes, so there is a real big incentive to actually cut costs at quite a few spots to be able to absorb at least some of those mortgage increased while still being able to save a little bit of money for emergencies and going on holidays, etc. And I have been working on building up an emergency fund over the last year. I did finally manage to get to the magic number of $10,000, and then just about 5 weeks ago, I had shoulder surgery, and that took up about $7,000, even after paying for private health here in Australia. I had to do it. There was no way out of it, so I'm glad I did it. But yeah, $7,000 just gone. And then my car had an emergency, and it needed a $2,000 fix. So needless to say, I'm back to zero in my bank account nearly. And yes, so now I've been looking at some options on how to find some extra money and really cut back costs. I live by myself. As I said, these videos are about living by yourself in your middle age. And so I shouldn't really have that many costs involved in certain areas of my life. So yes, I've been looking at my bills, and I've been trying to think which areas I can actually save some money at. Unfortunately, my house is very, very small. It's just a 1-bedroom and small on top of that. So I can't rent anything out to make some extra cash. It wouldn't really make sense to rent it out either, because I have to live somewhere else. I don't have parents living in Melbourne or family, so I can't live anywhere for free to make a real good dent into savings. So housing, which is one of the biggest costs that everybody faces, is out. I'll just have to bear it. And so I had a little think about what else would be big bills that I can hopefully save some money on. And after doing these budget sheets for 2 months, I sort of could find a few areas that would make a difference. So the first one is my groceries. According to my research, I spend around $500 to $600 a month on groceries for myself, which doesn't sound like that much to me. But on the other hand, I talk to a lot of families that spend less than that for a family of 3 or 4 people. So I can obviously spend money there. So my goal is to save around $200 a month. Let's be realistic. I'm trying to save $200 a month on groceries, which in the end should save me about $2,400 a year towards my higher mortgage payments. So that's number one. Grocery bills really reduced. So I've been looking into cheaper recipes online, like budget smart recipes, and there's so much on Google. If you just Google it, there's a few cookbooks everywhere to get at Kmart, Big W, that tell you about budget meals. Obviously fluffing it up with rice and vegetables and using more chickpeas, lentils, etc., rather than meats for your protein saves money. So yes, I've actually started to do a meal plan. That way I don't waste so much food. Hopefully it saves me enough money as I've planned. And then, yes, at the end of it, there's $2,500 nearly saved that will go towards the mortgage. I will start writing another budget for the next couple of months. That way I can actually track how much I spend at the big supermarkets in the end and see if it actually made a difference. The next biggest bill that I thought I could maybe save money on is my private health insurance. Because of the shoulder surgery, I took out quite a premium cover last year, and I paid for that this year, which was about, I don't know, about $4,000, let's call it that, for the year, which is crazy. So I did give them a call, and I can technically wind it back one step and cut the extras back a little bit, because I don't need that premium cover really at the moment. And that would save me another $1,000 to $1,500 a year. So that's another tick. Health insurance, I will wind back at the end of the year, because that's the easiest time to do it. And that way, let's think 2.5, 3.5. So that's about $4,000 a year that I hopefully have up my sleeve. And then the next biggest item really was my doggy daycare. As you might have heard or seen in the background, I've got a little Cavalier King Charles Harvey, and from when he was a puppy, I have sent him to doggy daycare once a week down the road, where he stays all day while I'm at work. He is home alone Monday to Friday for around 10 hours a day, and that is quite a long time for a dog. While he was little, I just felt like he needed a little bit more stimulation, and I didn't want him home alone that long. So yes, he's done doggy daycare once a week, and he's loving it. It's absolutely the best thing, but it does cost about $60 each time. So that's $240 a month gone out the window. So I had a really, really hard to think about it, and will try. And now that he's a little bit older, Harvey is 3 now, I will try and send him every second week for the next few months and see how we go, if it affects him in any way. I doubt it. I think by now he's fine. He also has a cat at home, so he's got a little bit of company. And come January and the changing mortgage rates coming up, I think I will have to cut that back to maybe once a month. Don't want to lose it at all. I don't want to lose it completely, just for the reason that I don't have family in town, and they also offer overnight stays and holiday care. So if I do need Harvey to stay somewhere when I go away, I usually go there. So I don't want him to totally forget about it. So, but even though by cutting doggy daycare back to every fortnight will save me about, nearly $1,000 a year. So if I cut it back to really once a month, that's, $2,000 a year done. So there we have about $6,000 saved. And then I know that next year in January, I get a salary increase, because we are on obviously agreements, and they agreed that for the next 2 years we're getting a 2.9% salary increase every year. So that'll come handy in January. So there's another couple of $1,000 there that will come my way. Plus my student debt will nearly be paid off. So that will give me an extra couple of $1,000. So all in all, I should have about 60 to 70% of the mortgage increase covered by applying these changes to my finances. And then obviously I'll have to take the rest either out of the money I try to save every month usually, or I will have to find another job. Maybe I do some tutoring, or I'm also a baby sleep specialist. So I've done a lot of neonatal care on the weekends, night nanny work, etc. So I might just have to take up some of those jobs again to fill the gap. I'm also lucky that I do have 4-month holidays a year as a teacher nearly. So I do have the time to do some extra work. So that's another thing I'm going to look into. But yeah, so that was what this video was about, to tell you a bit about myself and to see if you've got the same issues, that the cost of living are going through the roof, or maybe your mortgage is about to come out of the fixed term and you're looking at the same increase than I do, thinking, how the hell am I going to do this? So yes, let me know in the comments below if that's you and what you've changed. Maybe I'm really curious, how much do other solo living females in their mid-40s or 50s or even older spend on their groceries each week? Because I've absolutely no idea. I'm also always up for, let me know some good, cheap and yummy, healthy meals that are easy to cook. Living by myself, I really don't enjoy cooking a lot, and it just seems a waste of time. So I'm always up for something really simple and easy to do.